right here? Where is it?
And it's down the street.
Ybor City, right?
Yeah.
Well, we played here, man. I mean,
Well, we sort of came back and
well, actually,
we went to the club and we just
took over.
Yeah, well, they tried to cut you off and not have any show at the last minute.
we just sat at that bar all night and got so motherfucking drunk. I was breaking bottles over my head at the bar, and there was some guy there from another country, and he tried it and almost killed himself.
Czech Mike.
Yeah.
That's the guy. You know those dreadlocks we got in the house?
Yeah.
That's his.
It was great, man. I was getting so drunk, and he's like, "Could you do that? Could you do that now?" I took 2 fucking bottles. I'm like,
Hey,
"No
man,
problem."
You can get the guy on the side. Charles says he's cool.
Yeah, God, fuck me up the ass. Jesus Christ, suck my fucking ass. Your Bible, such a piece of trash. I am the highest power, the leader of the pack. Fuck you. You fucking word. Come on.
I think so. It's going.
Okay.
I'll give you the question first.
Okay.
Right. This is Mark,
A můžu to pustit už, ne?
and this is Mike, and there's Mike over there. Pojď se tam ukázat.
And this is like the only part of the.
Yeah, there's Mike.
There you go.
There's Mike.
Hi.
Here we are, Three Stooges.
And here in the Czech Republic is one of the only places my name is pronounced correctly. It's
Mark?
Hejnar.
Hejnar.
Right.
Mark.
It's actually Czech.
Well, that's what I was wondering.
It's
Hejnar. No?
Yes.
it's a Czech last name, and in America everybody calls me Hejnar.
Whoa.
So the first time I went to Prague in 1998, I was on a bus, and you had to turn in your passports.
Right.
And the guy came back, and he's like, Hejnar, and I was like, I was totally scared.
So in America, Hejnar,
Everyone calls me Hejnar.
you're Jewish, and in here, Hejnar, you're Slav.
No one thinks I'm Jewish in the United States.
I know.
It's very funny because when I was young, growing up, everybody would be like they'd be like, Mark, and you'd just be like, Hejnar, here.
Yeah. The Russians don't even have
Yeah, they don't have that sound, do they?
That syllable, they don't have it. It's good.
It's,
you know.
Right.
You know.
It's,
So we are introduced. I'm gonna just ask the first question.
sure.
Do you think Gigi would vote for Trump or what's her name?
Harris,
Kamala.
Pamela. Gigi wouldn't vote. There's no fucking way he would vote.
Right.
He would not be interested in anything that is part of the system.
Not being even sympathetic.
He would not give a flying fuck.
Ah,
He would never do it. He also
Okay.
wouldn't have an address.
yeah.
And he wouldn't have a place because you have to register in a specific state,
Right.
and you have to give ID. And half of the time, Gigi didn't have ID.
You know, in California, you don't. That's what I've heard on the TV. In California, when you vote, you don't have to bring your ID. You don't have to.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, in California, that's maybe where the counts, are wobbly.
Right,
Yeah.
right. But no, Gigi would not have voted. He
yeah.
would. There'd be like that's all part of the system, and he would never.
So we started off with a weak question, strong answer. That's nice. Okay.
Okay, so let me ask you.
All right.
So when did you first come to the United States to live?
1982. I went to college, special pedagogic, and I was about to go to army with the college, so it would be easier. But still, I was horrified. And my grandfather lived in U.S. because he was stripped of his property after Second World War and put in jail, like many people unjustly were in late 40s. So he got angry and went to States, and so I was in a way I was following him, and our lives later on got tangled. But in '82, I luckily, because he sent me an invitation, and few real happy accidents happened, so I ran out of here, and my parents didn't know that I wanted to stay there.
Okay.
And I went to upstate New York, where my aunt lived, and then I went to follow some of my friends to Venice Beach, where there was my first longer stay.
Can I ask where in upstate New York?
It was called Hudson.
Hudson Valley.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Upstate New York, right above Albany, there
Yeah,
somewhere,
I'm from Vermont, so
Right.
I'm
yeah.
familiar with that area.
Yeah.
Okay.
Moonlight.
Yeah, Moonlight in Vermont, exactly. Yeah, that's a great song. Okay, so you were able to, because of your family connections, live in the United States
Yeah.
legally. Like
We got in trouble by my aunt not wanting me to get the political asylum because she wasn't comfortable with me staying there. It was a family kind of a weird thing. Later on, we got friends and everything, and so it took an angry call from my father after he discovered that I don't want to come back. That was actually some of the reasons while I split, because I could never get along with my father. So he screamed at his sister, my aunt, and told her, well, tomorrow you go with him to Albany and get the fucking political asylum. And in those days, they told you what to say, just not to having to bother with the paperwork, and it was very easy to get it. That's how I got it,
Okay. And when did you move to Tampa?
I was living a year and a half in Venice. Then I had to move to Hawaii because it got a little tight for me in Venice. I lived, I think, a year or two in Hawaii, and then my grandfather called me up, and so I went back to Venice, picked up some stuff, and moved to Tampa. That could have been 85-ish.
Okay. And so what were you doing for work, or were you working in Tampa?
I lived with my grandfather, did street work, building work, cement factory, newspaper carrier,
Right.
and but mainly taking care of him, and then my aunt bought the house of grandfather. Grandfather went here because my parents were already social security, so they could take care of him, and I moved to Tampa because she bought the house and she sold it to somebody. So so I was living in a car in a Masquerade parking lot. And then I started to work there, and I lived in Ybor City and in Tampa. That could have been, I think, 80, maybe 7-ish or something.
Okay.
I played at Skipper's Smokehouse. I played with reggae and stuff, and in Tampa, when they started with the Masquerade, I cleaned floors there and everything. I got kind of smeared in and started my career,
As a sound engineer?
No. First with the barback, shit cleaner, and then I played with the, they had always impotency snakes and heroin. Changing, so I played with them, so I was kind of doing whatever was in there. And when they moved to Atlanta, I did DJing and monitor sound, and did that and lived there in Masquerade as well.
Okay, okay. And do you remember when Masquerade moved from Tampa to Atlanta? Was that like 91, 90?
I think 90.
90, okay.
And the story goes that that Dean 13, Dean Riopelle, he's not alive anymore. I mean, so he went. Their plan was to make a Masquerade net all over the States, but then spread kind of. But then the Masquerade existence in Atlanta was taking so much effort and energy. There were 3 people: Brian, guitar player, kind of a shadow minister; Dean, the soul and main guy, vocalist of Impotency Snakes and author of the songs; and this guy Berda, who did all the muscle work. So they were these 3 guys team, and in Tampa they were angry boys, but in Atlanta they were already business guys, And Tampa kept on growing, Masquerade kept on growing. In Tampa, it was by one night when the college people came in for a disco night, and since then it spread it and it got on its toes. And in Atlanta it was very gradual, and that's when I got this tattoo,
Right.
from guy, his name was Molina or something, So yeah, and Dean picked up an Excelsior mill, which was an old mill on a Holy Creek or something, paper mill, and he picked it up, and in matter of minutes he bought it just before somebody else would buy it, and he rebuilt it into Heaven, Hell, Purgatory Club.
Right.
And everybody played there.
Right.
Even Gigi Allen.
Oh, that's right. He did play there, didn't he?
With
That was with the. That was when Anti-Scene. And he got on and played.
Right.
Because I remember Gigi bitching about Masquerade and being like, those fuckers, they didn't want me. And it's like, well, no shit. It's like a decent club.
Well, that's exactly what he reputed, and one would know why. That was not his level. That was already the shit he was actually fighting against.
Right.
Maybe,
Right. Yeah. Okay, so that makes sense. All right, so let's go back to Tampa.
Right.
So you were friends with Razor, and you were friends with, was it Brian? Brian lived in the house with, who was Razor's roommate? The woman, is it?
Razor came into my life in Tampa, and she told me I had long dreadlocks, and she told me, go flip the coin, and if you have this or that, if you have the wrong side of the coin, cut off your dreadlocks. And I didn't want to do it, but I did. And we were great friends. So she kind of talked me into it or something, psyched me into it. and I of course I pulled the wrong side, and I cut my dreads. The next week or next day I got in a bad trouble with skinheads, because Tampa had very hardcore skinheads. Dean McKee was put in jail for murder, and I got in trouble with him, and I was saved by this chick with a flashlight, distracting the energy, you know, because they were friends with me when I had dreads, and when I didn't have them, I acted like I would still have them confidentially. And I said something wrong because they were kind of fighting, like having fun fighting, and I went astray. We had a gig in there with Count something, and Dean was there, and skinheads, and I said, oh, you're looking like faggots, and I shouldn't have said that, because it almost had a real bad ending. But in the end of the night, I played with a guitar and played the harp, and I had the guitar hanging, and I closed my eyes, and when I opened them, the Dean guy was strumming my guitar and looking at me, so that was odd. But it was, you know, so that worked out. But it was edgy, because the skinheads in Tampa were no fucking around. And Razor got along with everybody. You know, she had that ability, and I knew, or did not. I did not of her any connections with Gigi, because I think I got acquainted with Gigi by this picture. You know, I want all my people to murder somebody before I kill myself, that I saw in a Filth magazine, which maybe I still have, but I couldn't find it. And I thought, that's an interesting proclamation. And that was already in Atlanta, I think. So she was, I don't know if she ever was moving to in Atlanta as well.
I don't believe that she ever lived in Atlanta, but I couldn't be certain with that, but I don't believe it. So Gigi started talking about this in approximately January of '89. That's when he was in Chicago.
Right. So that must have been when the Atlanta masquerade already started in Atlanta. Because I remember, you know, like you have this optical memory, I remember seeing this. No, totally different, because Gigi already played in Tampa by the river, and that's where I actually had, that's where I was kind of like lucky not to meet him too close. If you like to hear that story, we can come to it or whatever. That's the key thing, actually. So I was wrong. I got to know Gigi already in Tampa.
Yeah.
See.
Yeah.
Not everything.
No, this is always a process. Everybody I talk with, it's like they'll start, like, we all have memories, and
right.
they might not necessarily be correct.
Yeah, yeah.
And because it's so long ago, we need a reminder.
Right.
And the reminder gets us on track.
So this guy, Ray Ruiz, had a...
Ray Lewis?
Ray Ruiz. On Facebook, he's called Ray Golindo or something. And he put Gigi's show in his place called Art Alive in Ybor City on a 7th Avenue, which is the secesní, the old looking, secession looking street in Ybor City. And he had a house there, Arts Alive, which was like an open mic gallery. But it had a pretty big stage. I mean, something in between a hall and a living room, which was ideal. And he invited Gigi, and the day of the concert, the fire department came and closed the place because of safety reasons or whatever. And Ray put it over to, jak se jmenovalo to jméno, jak on v Tampě, jak tam hrál, ten klub.
V Atlantě. V Atlantě, myslíš?
No, ne, v Tampě, ten první.
Myslím, že Harbor Club.
It's the Harbor Club, yeah.
Yes.
And there, so Gigi arrived there. That was the first time I saw him. And the mics didn't work. So he came out and screamed, and the mics didn't work. So we had to go back to Arts Alive, across the river to Ybor City, get the mic. So he sat on a drum riser and waited for maybe 40 minutes. And everybody waited with him, calmly, just waited. And then the hell broke loose again, properly, when the mic came. And it was a great show. And then we went to Arts Alive. I believe that was the night that we drank and talked the whole night through. And what I remember from that, there's somebody in that video talking about that meeting. For what I remember, I didn't corner him or anything. Oh, I know, now it came to me. Some things by then weren't obvious yet, so we just drank and talked. I was an exotic. It was when my dreads were still on. And for what I remember from that night, that we both praised Jim Morrison. I remember that because he wasn't keen on. He was keen on few, maybe, but many more he wasn't. Jim Morrison was one he was keen of, and somebody left a message on the phone in Ray's place, and you can verify all this with Ray later on. So I'm not. I don't want to. Memories get blurry, but I don't want to fucking make stuff because it became kind of critical. So somebody left a message. Gigi, we did it. What should we do with the body? And that freaked me out. And I went to Clearwater or Largo or somewhere right there, a small city where he went to a strip bar or something. And I asked him if I can make an interview with him because I was freaking out. And because he seemed like a great guy and everything. So I wanted to confront him, telling him, my friend had a pistol. I was gonna make a video, I was gonna give him the pistol and tell him, Gigi, you want people to kill for you? Go ahead, don't be a hypocrite. And I wrote a letter to my mother and everything in case, and I had a mirror that I was gonna break with my head to put myself symbolically on his level, you know. I did it a couple of times with hookers later on stage, and he was the biggest inspiration, you know, for me, spiritually and artistically. And we were gonna meet, I think at 12 or something. So we went over in Ybor, over the street. I was carrying the mirror and everything, and Ray told me, "Oh man, he just left for Chicago," which could have been maybe saving my life, guardian angel. Later on, when we played in a rec room with him, because hookers were put together just for that one show, just to open up for Gigi Allin. And then accidentally we kept on going to this day, you know, we actually go, but supposedly it was for just that one show. And before that I did monitors for him also in the rec room. And the Sea Snakes went to see the show, and in the backstage he took hookers dancers. You could see them, Alexa and Karen, very brave ladies. What you see, you know, and that, and we were on backstage and everybody chilling out and everything. And Dean said, "Hey Mike, tell Gigi the story from Tampa." I said, well. And I started to pull it out, and when it came to the thing where I heard the message and everything, Gigi jumped on my back and started to fight me. So I got pissed off, kind of shook him off and went home. It broke the vibe and everything, you know. And later on, and I don't know how much later, months, couple of years, I went to the Point, which was a little club in a little 5 Points in Atlanta, famous place. And I went for a beer, and there was one person at the bar with the hood on, and it was Gigi, sitting there, who knows why. And I said, "Hey Mike," when we played with him, he carved a cross, you know, with the razor knife. "Gigi, would you please?" "Yeah, I love cut people, man." And then I met him at the Point, and "Yeah, Mike, what's up?" And he apologized to me and said, "But if you would do that, I would have killed you, because I wouldn't break no law." Or maybe he said, "There's a strong possibility that I would have killed you." I don't know, but I remember that's what he said, that it wasn't wise for me to move, to plan and to realize, to instigate moves like that. So that made a nice circle, you know, and we got on well, and you know, and then I never saw him again personally, I think, or did, I don't, probably not. The gas station and all those, you know, he never could. Oh, when we toured with the Snakes in Texas, other places. So often he would be there a couple of nights before us and stuff, you know, with mentors. I met the mentor guy,
El Duce.
He gave me a nice T-shirt, and we talked about Gigi. And El Duce, who was found dead on the railroad track a couple of weeks after he talked his mouth to the guy, and what
To Nick Bromfeld, yeah.
right, and what was her name? Love.
Yeah, Courtney Love, yeah.
Was, yeah.
So when you say that Gigi had said it was a bad idea for you to like taunt him, to basically
Right,
say,
right.
and what was he? Why would he say that it would be okay to kill you and it wouldn't be a crime because you'd already said?
He was saying something that there was be either that he would just, or that there was a strong chance maybe he wasn't sure what he would do in that situation. But I think that he said, good thing we didn't meet because I would have killed you and it would be no crossing the law, because I would put the gun in his hand and tell him. It's weird. I think that it wouldn't be that easy for him. I was sure that he wouldn't do it. I was just mesmerized that people actually fucking kill for this little announcement, you know. And so I felt pushed, and it's like, you know, So I went that far, and it slid right by, so we didn't meet. And then, you know, he once called me from jail to masquerade. I know I was sleeping, and they ran off from masquerade from the kitchen. Hey, Mark, you have a phone call. He was on the phone, and he wrote me a letter, which unfortunately I don't have. Yeah. So we set up that. There was also a third band called Diary Queen or something. They had violin. I remember asking him, hey, it's kind of like a alternative weird music with violin. He said, oh, it's great. That's just great. You know. I never doubted his musical instincts.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Well, he knew a lot about music.
Right.
When you talk with him, he was always he was always very okay. He didn't know anything about what was going on at that time.
Right.
Like I remember saying to him in '91, I was like, you know, like the best band right now is Jesus Lizard.
Mm-hmm.
Have you
From Atlanta. No.
they were originally from Texas when they were
But they
Scratch
didn't-
Acid,
yeah.
and then they moved to Chicago.
Oh, Jesus, it was Scratch Acid, right.
It's not the whole band. It was David Yao and maybe one other member.
It was the
and they-
skinny weird guy.
Yeah.
They played Masquerade.
Did they? Yeah.
He acted like he's singing, opened his mouth and everything. He wasn't singing. He did weird stuff.
He was. Yes.
It was a great band that Fletcher, drummer of Hookers, adored.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
Great band. Great.
So when they moved to Chicago, they eventually became Jesus Lizard there.
Right. Yeah.
But you know, when I asked Gigi, he just said he was like, heard of them, never heard them.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'd say, well, what about so and so? And he's like, heard of them, never heard them.
Yeah.
And but if you had said like, you know, Merle Haggard, or you had
Hank
said
Williams.
Hank Williams, he could go on for, and like he told me about Luke the Drifter, which was, do you know who? Okay, so Hank Williams had an alias, and he did records as Luke the Drifter. And if you listen to them, it's obviously Hank Williams.
Oh wow.
But they're more religious, you know. It's and a lot of them are talk songs, not like Red Sorvine, like that sort of style. And it's like, you know, if you had your house and a man came and he knocked on your door, would you let him in and say, sit down, friend, have some more? You know, like that sort of a style.
You
And
can find it, right?
Oh yeah. But Gigi was the one that told me about those records, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna go get those.
Did he ever know about Hazel Atkins?
Oh yeah, they played together.
See.
Okay, so actually, that there was the connection. Lenny, who was the video merch guy in '91, he was Merle's roommate in '89,
Right.
and maybe through '91. I don't. No. By then, Merle was married. So Lenny had lived with Merle. When Merle got married the second time, he moved out, and I think Chick and John moved in to that apartment. Lenny had made a short documentary about Hazel Adkins. And sorry, I don't remember what town Hazel lived in.
It was in the swamps in Central America somewhere, I think.
But then he moved. Maybe he stayed there. But at any point, they set up a show where the two of them would play, and there was a big fight because Hazel was like, "No, Gigi has to open for me," and Gigi was like, "No, fuck you. You open for me."
Maybe I heard about it. That's so interesting. And so,
In all honesty, off the top of my head, I can't tell you what happened. I don't remember right now.
Hazel Adkins is the only guy who can reach the zenith. I'm not saying even level, but the zenith of Gigi.
Right.
If
right.
anybody, you know.
But you've heard the story about Gigi meeting Rocky Erickson from 13th Floor Elevators.
Man, that's interesting, and I don't even know if I heard the story, but I heard some bells are ringing. So how did it go?
Again, when Lenny had gotten, I think Lenny did it as simple as opening up the phone book and finding Rocky Erickson's mother and calling her up, and she's like, "Yeah, he lives in this room behind a porno shop," and she got a hold of him and was like, "Yeah, if you guys stop by in the afternoon, this is the address." And Gigi had told me, so this is the Murder Junkies. So this would have been, I don't remember what tour it, but it was, but Bill Weber was in the band, so it was after November of '91, and they showed up, and Gigi told me it was like, there was a TV playing in every room and a radio on, and clocks going off, and like there was just this din in the room, and they were all kind of weirded out, and Rocky picked up a guitar that was broken and was like, "Yeah, I've been playing here guitar on this here songs here on this guitar. You want to play?" And he handed it to Gigi, and Gigi was like, there was like one string on it, or maybe nothing. I can't remember. And Gigi was like, we took some pictures. We gave him a T-shirt, and he kind of wanted something. He was like, "Aren't you gonna give me something?" And they all kind of just was like, "Well, that was great." They sat down and did some small talk and then left. But because obviously, Rocky, everybody in the band loved Rock. The 13th Floor Elevators,
including Gigi.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. So that's something like meeting Sid Barrett, right?
Yeah, really.
Yeah?
Like a similarity. Yeah. But Sid kept doing work. Not music, but he was painting, as I recall. Whereas Rocky didn't do anything after he retired from music.
But he recorded some stuff, Rocky Erickson, towards, right?
I don't remember. In all I've only listened to his
13th Floor.
Stuff. I don't recall if I've ever listened to any of his solo stuff, if he had any.
To be rightful, there has been personas over the States who stood up bravely. Another guy was the guy from Moby Grape, who got and went from the hospital on pajamas on a motorcycle. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do, but I can't tell you what his name is.
Right. So there were few, or that guy, Wander, this country guy, usually either Hicks or hillbillies or country guys. Over the edge, but none of them was holding a flag with a mission that was thought up as a communist manifesto or something. Very clear direction, like Gigi did. with his domination and with his setting up straight where the business, where the art, where the truth is, his truth. One of my favorite of his saying is, you dance with death, so you experience life, and you gotta die when your soul is on the highest spin, because then you glide easily into the next whatever, you know. Made sense always, you know.
Right, right. And so what did you think of Gigi's mission statement? The idea of, you know, destroying rock and roll and rebuilding it in his name, and the idea of killing somebody in his name. What did you personally feel about that?
Destroying rock and roll and killing somebody are two different things. So there was, in my view of Gigi, there always is and was, among admiration, a contradiction, because I was a hippie and I hated violence and I hate violence, but the nakedness of the whole Western society bullshit showed he best and bluntly. So there was only one guy that did so much in my truth seeking, and that was Charles Manson. And it was a connection just like with Beatles and Charles Manson. I have a book on it, with Gigi and Charles, because he did garbage dump.
Yeah.
You know, so you know, that's why I got so upset with the message that came from Chicago on the phone. You know, because you can't fuck with. You can't fuck with other people's lives and souls, you know, but you do what you do, and nobody else did it as much as Gigi, just doing what he did, and that's what influenced everybody else. So, you know, he was crossing border of what I find acceptable. I'm definitely saying that, you know. But in the same time, he was my, like I said, biggest inspiration, spiritual, artistic, and just not being, not fake, but not being předstírat. Pretend, not to be pretentious.
Not to be pretentious. Right,
you know.
Right. So when you're saying the message from Chicago, are you talking about the we've killed somebody?
Yeah, we did it. What should we do with the body? And this is something to, maybe he's gonna deny it, Ray, you know, but he should have known about it, because that was in his place, and that was what started me to do this crazy thing about trying to do this interview. You know,
Right,
with him.
right. When Gigi did interviews, there was a couple of different Gigis. There was sometimes when, if he was drunk, it was like one-word responses. You know, he would, you know, yes, no.
Yeah.
Then there was times that he would go on forever, and he would try to be like, he tried to win the interviewer over.
Right.
Like, you know, some straight woman from like a magazine, he would actually be very, very courteous.
Yeah.
But if you tried to compete with him and be like, I'm more hardcore than you, or think about how cool I am, Gigi. I'm in a band that's like named after one of your tattoos.
Right.
Oh man, you were in for a world of shit.
Yeah.
There's an interview from the Green Green Street Station, where he was the one show he was going to do with Bulge, who did the Freaks, Faggots, and Junkies record as his backing band. They had one show they were going to do, and some guy was interviewing him in the alley, and he just kind of was like making fun of Gigi, and Gigi just grabbed his deck and smashed it, you know.
Yeah, he didn't go far to act like that. Just like Nirvana made fun of him, but only the two guys never Kurt. Kurt stays there, shut up, no one word. But the other guys, you know, are you know, it's kind of, it comes to a situation when it's unpleasant to take compliment, because you know what you did and stuff, yet on the other side you long for a compliment. You need it's controversy. You need somebody say, hey, great Gigi, and then you hate when the world bows down and said, oh Gigi, you're greater than God. And I heard somebody later on doing that sugary over complimenting, and it was a Czech guy, and he said, oh, Magor, heroes from Plastic People. Somebody also, oh, and he said, well, should I fucking apologize you for that? Great reaction, you know.
Right.
And Magor in Plastic People were very close to Gigi.
Really?
Oh yeah. He was the head of the underground. He was a Kunsthistoric degree, and he was the soul machine power. Then he got jailed. You know, great poet, great organizer, non-compromising, you know. But lately, lots of the plastic people, they just, in my view, their growth, their memory got frozen. You know, they still fight against communism, yet there is no threat of communism anymore. You know, and they glorify the freedom, yet we live in a new totalitarian again. You know. I don't know how obvious this is in America, but I suppose it's pretty close. You know, the climate, you know, of a personal freedom, and that's another thing that I like about Gigi, because he showed the ugly side of society, and as we see now from 30-40 people after, the ugly side of the Western society is showing more and more, and it's more and more ugly.
And they're in power now, or they will be.
That's why I ask who he would vote, because he would probably have his feelings. Impotent sea snakes, where it's Democrats and the other side is
Republicans.
Yeah, the sea snakes were heavy Republicans. In time when already the artistic, you know, the Bruce Springsteen and what's her name, Taylor Swift, of those days and in these days, you know, they were the progressive, you know, but yeah, I just wanted to touch on that point.
Sure. But I will say, like, okay, back in the '80s, in the early '80s, punk rock in America, for the most part, was leftist. It was very anti-Reagan. There were a few exceptions. The Ramones were definitely like pro-Reagan.
Really?
Yeah. But you know, you've got like Jello Biafra an entire career made of
Oh,
going
yeah.
after the president, and I mean Jello Biafra went after Jerry Brown, who was like a liberal Democrat in the United States, and
Jello was brave. He came to Masquerade, and he said, I have to have a wireless, or I'm not
doing it.
doing it. So, and there was early days of Masquerade. There was no wireless. And we went somewhere, got the wireless, and then he went into the speech, and I thought, wow, man, this guy, I'm surprised that nobody's fucking got him yet. And he went after the show with the Snakes, and he hated the Snakes because Snakes had the song "Goddamn the Jews." God Save the, on the melody of God Save the Queen, and also Missing Link, about niggers being a missing link, which was all in a harsh fun, but there was a black guy in Impotency Snake's band,
Right.
you know, but Jello wouldn't go for it. That's what I'm in the article also. And the other guy you hit on earlier, Jello, Ramones.
Yeah.
They came to Masquerade, and Impotency Snakes had like episodes of times when they called themselves Heroin, and they were like Fields of Nephilim, Gothic, you know, all different stuff. And so the owners of the club opened up for the Ramones with this Gothic outlet, and people booed them out.
Booed them out, yeah.
And then the Ramones took place, and after the show, Dean, there was a kitchen back there. Have you been to Masquerade ever?
No.
You know, there's a heaven, purgatory, hell, density area. Heaven, you go up through the bars. To the left there's a kitchen. You go through the kitchen, and there's a little stairs and little room where Dean was residing and doing stuff and everything. And once, and it was connected to purgatory, where I was doing DJ. I was playing like new age music, you know, mellow purgatory, you know, stuff opposite to those two. And once I played Starry Starry Night, and Dean opened the door. He could go and see from upstairs, you know, there to purgatory. And he said, Mike, this is my very favorite songs of all. So this punk guy, Impotency Snakes, so his favorite song. So there's always, you know, a depth venue where and after they got booed out, Ramones played, and after the show, Joey went over all the way through the kitchen to that little cancelage, knocked, and told Dean, you guys were absolutely great, and gave him his old fucking beat it up mic stand.
Wow.
So that was great.
Right.
Yeah.
So do you remember when Gigi did that show at Rec Room that you opened for?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember any specifics of that night that,
Well,
in terms of his set?
he asked if he can use our dancers.
Right.
I had dancers that were like sticking needles in my arms and shit like that, and then there was Cherry Snow, who was beating me, and Gigi asked if he can use the dancers, and so Alexa, that I was in love with then, and Karen, or maybe I was with Karen, I don't remember, and Karen, you can see on the footage, he's getting her legs over and getting pretty fucking wild and strange position and uncomfortable, but she was going with it. And I guess it was just a regular show because the the stuff when he breaks the picture with Jesus and destroys the Bible is from the before show when I was doing monitors for him, and that's when I hand him and that's actually the only footage with me and Gigi together.
Okay, so you worked sound and gave him the mic. That was at the
At the first show.
November of '91.
Or my first show. I don't know how many times he played there, but I was acquainted in 2 shows.
Okay, so he did 2 shows
Right.
at Rec Room. He did
Right.
one in November of '91.
Right.
That first tour with Bill Weber, when Bill Weber became the guitar player, and then he did another show that would have been February of '92.
And that was the start of Hookers, because that was why we got together, got the material and everything, and we were never gonna play again. That
Right.
was just for that. And then we opened for Falling Trains. The guy said, "Hey, we'll end the songs. Let's do another." And so we kept on going for a while.
Right.
Robin Fink was in Hookers for a while, so lots of people.
Right. And you said you're still playing today.
Yeah, we have a gig in a month, and I lost some 30 pounds, so I can go on stage again.
Right. So is your show here in the Czech Republic? or-
Right, yeah, we play, now we play every once in a while as a novelty, memory, but we, in early 2000, we played a lot of shows, So like we did our deeds,
Yeah, you paid your dues.
Yeah.
Right. So is everybody in the band today Czech?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's yeah. There. I was wondering. See, one song even in Atlanta was in Czech language. But in Atlanta there was only one Czech guy. This gypsy, who I was friend with. So he was the only guy who could appreciate Poor Virgin Mary. So he was the only guy who could appreciate it. And there was Donna Kay, great singer, Keith Lee, who committed suicide from unhappy love, and Fletcher, great drummer and guitarist. Fletcher was supposed to be a guitarist, and then but he was also a drummer. So he sat behind the drums, and Zook from the Drugs. Zook, I forgot his name, and Robin played for a while, and different people. Even Brian from the Sea Snakes played. We played one gig. Whoever was available,
Right. Okay, so yeah, rotating. Yeah. I only saw the Sea Snakes once. They played Chicago at the Expo of the Extreme. I want to say it was the first one. I was quite impressed. I thought they had a really great.
Wasn't
live
it on
show.
a Sleaze Fest?
It was called Expo of the Extreme.
Because there was a Sleaze Fest in Chicago where they also played.
Okay.
Where I got first my cut on the back, and I bought a Gigi's VH Bezel, and I lost it, and I went back to Merrill, and it was like $22, and I said, Merrill, I only have $19, and he wouldn't sell me another copy. So since then, he was just a brother of somebody.
Right. That's funny. That's I think that Merle though is in Merle's defense, like people all day long are like, come on, man, I
had $19.
That's close. That's so close.
And it was for 22. So
and it was in person, right? It was at the show.
I didn't even think that he's gonna think about it because the difference was so little.
Yeah.
I was giving him chance to show me that he's not such a big asshole. He lost his chance to
To do disprove, right? Well, I first met Merle in '91 at the Santa Barbara show, and it was kind of funny because I went on tour with Gigi then, but Gigi hadn't told the band that I was like going to be going on the road with them and traveling in the van, and I think it wasn't until that day that Gigi told them. Like that told Merle, like, yeah, there's this guy Mark, the guy that was, you know, in Chicago and filmed my trial in Milwaukee, and I think Merle originally was like, no, Gigi, this isn't gonna fucking happen. And then Merle and I hit it off, and it was like, Hejnar, he's okay, he can come along. The last time
He was a character.
Merle, absolutely, still is, still is.
Still doing his shit art.
I think so. I think so.
Let's leave it at that. But yeah, well, you know, praise the world of shit. You know?
That's really. So the last time I saw the Murder Junkies, so I basically haven't lived in the U.S. in 20 years. I moved.
You haven't been.
Have not. I moved.
Okay.
I moved to Thailand in 2004.
Wow.
My wife had a job. And I thought I was only going for like a year. Well, it turned into 4, and then she got another. She had a couple of jobs in Thailand, and then we moved to India, and then we were in D.C. for a short period. Then we went to Ukraine. Then we went to Moscow, and then we moved to. Then we lived in Mexico City.
What year in Ukraine and Moscow?
Ukraine was 2010 to 2012, and Moscow.
That was before Maidan, then.
Yes, it was. We lived very close, just off the Maidan, and then we moved to Moscow in August of 2012, and then everything started in Ukraine, and. So when we were in Moscow was when all the trouble happened in Odessa and Crimea.
Where they burned the people in Odessa.
Yes, right. But where they took
the Azov soldiers.
Right. But I was thinking more of like when they took over Crimea in terms of like taking over the port and everything. So we were in Moscow at that point. And then when the shit went down in Moscow, we had already left. We left in like July of 2014. And then...
What do you mean when the shit went down in Moscow?
There was like the next crazy wave of trouble that was starting in Moscow. And it was also, it hit a point where it was very aggressive towards Americans. So it was a good time to depart. And then from there we went to Mexico City for 3 years, and then we went back to Thailand, and now we're in Belgrade.
Wow.
So,
Belgrade, Yugoslavia?
former Serbia, the former Yugoslavia.
Well, that should be a cool place to live.
It is. It's okay. The beer is not Czech, but they've got a good craft beer scene. Whereas here in Prague, I mean, you've got the tank beer.
But they're not members of the European
Correct,
Unity,
they are not.
Which
They are
is
not.
a big advantage.
How so?
And it will be the bigger because the European unity goes to shit, breaks down, you know, because it's actually to hit it off, because we might be getting out of time. I am very grateful to America to give me life, maybe killing me almost, not quite, but to give me a shelter and to masquerade and Gigi and for the fullness of what I dreamed for, you know, I got it. But nowadays I think that America is the source of wars, evilness, and fuck ups, and Europe and the whole world goes weird into. People are turning into machines, you know, the spirit wanes off, and so many, as we speak, so many people must fucking die. For what? For nothing. You know, just because somebody assembles this war to go so they get, you know, their control and stuff. So my view of America turned 180 degree, you know, and that's why I was wondering, because there was no more Vietnam when Gigi was, is, and always shall be. That was 84, I think, right?
No, it was earlier than that, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean the Vietnam.
So it was after Vietnam.
Sure.
But yet there were wars, Iran, Afghanistan, you know, that was in his time. But I guess that was maybe, I mean, if there was somebody who had the right not to express and pull politics into his artistic, so it was Gigi, because he was the politics are just fucking games, but he was a real guy that was going for something, you know. You know, so that's now the artists, to me, because they get their donations and money, and they are you know, dependent of those who feed them. So I think that the arts gets, and that's why I understand when Gigi said, you know, this whole rock and roll business is just laughable, and rock music must stay evil to be real. And that's why I see his connections with Charles Manson, who was one of the greatest songwriters. Neil Young knew that, and few others. Mamas and Papas, those melodies are all derivatives from his songs. But you know, times were crazy and stuff, and Beatles are there as well, as far as change shifters, you know, of the world. So the connection is obvious there, you know. But I would ask you, did you ever had a disagreement with Gigi on the let's say intellectual level, or even small talk level, or any level?
Oh, certainly. In terms of being around Gigi, you had to accept that he was always right.
Right.
And if he said, this is what we're doing,
right,
you're doing that.
Right.
There's no two ways about it.
Right.
For example, I videotaped his. So Gigi had in February of '89, Gigi got arrested in Milwaukee for disorderly conduct.
Right.
And
not after the cut up. That was it. Where he cut the chick.
It was before. It was before.
Right.
And the two are not connected. So that was with Toilet Rockers, and basically he took a shit on stage during the opening band's act. It wasn't even, it was Beautiful Bert and the Crotch Crickets. Gigi wasn't even playing yet. But Gigi came out and like danced while Bert was playing and took a dump. And the bouncer, the security guy, like called the police. And the police eventually came and arrested him. And but he was let out on bail a couple of days later. Then he went to prison in December of '89, and then he got out in March of '91. And in Oh, so that would be. Oh, we
We're
just hit
through.
the end. Yeah. So Gigi got to the point where Gigi had to go to trial when he got out of prison in '91, and Gigi was like, okay, so the first day is going to be jury selection, and he's like, yeah, well, I don't want you to videotape. Like, there's no reason for you to videotape that, and you're like, but Gigi, that's the beginning of the trial, and he's like, no. I don't need you to come. And you're like, ah. So of course I don't come, and I show up later that day, and he's like, Hejnar, like and actually he called me Mac. I was Mac.
Yeah.
And he was like, man, all the news crews were there. There was everyone. It's like, it's too bad you weren't there with the camera. Gigi. Fucking.
So that's more than a disagreement. That's like getting pissed at him. He told you not to come, and then he told you, too bad. Yeah,
that was a classic.
That's a pissed off material. Yeah.
So that was the sort of thing that would happen with Gigi, where
But you never had a
when he got out of prison in '93, he was fucking pissed. He was pissed at the world, and I just kind of got tired of him. I didn't actually want to be around him anymore.
Wow.
But I knew he was going to die.
Yeah.
You
knew he was going to die.
Oh,
you sensed it.
Absolutely. There was no question about it.
This is fucking so interesting, and the fucking camera is off, man.
But I'm recording this.
You are?
Yeah.
So you can give me the audio of this.
Of
because
this portion
for
here,
me this is very interesting,
So
Ne, už to není, už tam není.
So with Gigi, like when he got out of prison, it was very obvious that so if it wasn't going to be death, it was going to be jail or the hospital, and he was going to be like paralyzed. But it was very obvious that the end was coming. There was no doubt about it. And
this is fascinating to me because I thought that when he was proclaiming that he was gonna play country, no more rock music, so I thought that he was kind of mellowing out, and that he was gonna be an uncle guy.
He might have had the idea he was going to do country, but he was ready to go. He was on the road, and he was looking, to cause as much trouble as possible.
He needed electric mad power.
Exactly. But it was obvious. Like
he wouldn't stop to be an exorcist.
Exactly.
All right.
So he got out of prison in
93.
Yeah, March of '93, because I actually picked him up from prison and drove him to Chicago. And then he went and he recorded the album in New York, The Brutality, Bloodshed for All.
Yeah.
And then they went on the road. And I went on the road with them. And the last time I saw Gigi was in Chicago, and that would have been like June, maybe it was June 4? Maybe it was June 3. I can't remember the date off the top of my head. And he played Chicago at a club called the Congress Theater, which was the new Medusas. And then, we went back to New York, and within under 3 weeks, 3 weeks, he was dead.
So you saw a culminating towards something drastic?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Just that, the end is coming. There was just no two ways about it. But he could have ended up just paralyzed. Crippled in the hospital.
Anytime before that.
Anytime before that too.
Yeah.
But it was very like when I got the call from Merle that said Gigi was dead. There was no question in my mind that when he called, I knew what he was going to say before he said it.
Yeah.
So that was a very, very...
Just like Brian Jones, maybe.
Perhaps, yeah. It was but it was obvious that it was going to hit that the wall was going to be hit.
Yeah.
You're gonna shut us off? Because you don't want the fucking players on it? Then fuck you! Because you're mean now.
Let's go.
All right, now close the door. Close the door.
Gigi, until we meet again.
I live on the Upper West Side.
Are you a happy person?
I'm beautiful.